I want to thank you all for coming today. Happy July 4th. As most of us know, July 4th is a celebration of our Declaration of Independence as a brand new country trying to separate itself from a monarchy. We all know which one. I think it's interesting that on a day like today, which is a national holiday, most Americans are actually working. I am working. My workers are working. This is the norm in the United States of America. There are many other countries around the world where it's not the norm. If they have a national holiday and people work, there is a mandatory overtime pay. There are mandatory holidays where people actually are not allowed to work. But there are far deeper issues at hand here when it comes to workers' issues. I'd like us to kind of talk briefly about a workers' declaration of independence. And such an important part of our campaign is representing the working class. And I am definitely a member of that, so are my workers, and so I think are most of my supporters. But I would also entreat those of you who consider yourselves middle class to know that you're about to join us. NAFTA and GATT and other free trade agreements have promised this to us. We are in a race to the bottom, and all of our jobs are at stake in manufacturing. It's time for us to recover our economy by rebuilding small manufacturing and regional agriculture. If we're going to do those things, we need to focus on workers' rights. At the moment, the federal minimum wage is so far below the poverty level as to be cruel. It is time for a $15 an hour minimum wage, and that is what I am proposing. A lot of small business people like myself are not necessarily for this when you first broach it with them. But the reality is that wage-led growth is good for communities that have a higher or a prevailing wage. This has been shown over and over again in many different studies. You may see a slight cost in the increase of some goods. You may see some inflation. But you're talking on average about 2 to 3% when you look at raising the wage to a prevailing wage, as I'm suggesting, at $15. You're not looking at a doubling of the price of a loaf of bread or a piece of lumber at the hardware store. So if we're only looking at a 2 or 3% increase in the cost of the goods we buy every day, how could we lose by choosing to pay workers an amount of money they can live on? A worker working 40 hours a week at $15 an hour would be making almost $30,000 a year. A two-income family could now afford to buy a reasonable pair of clothing. They could afford to go out for dinner at a nice restaurant. They could certainly afford to buy pieces of art. They could go to the farmer's market. These are things most of us in the working class have to forego. We do not have the expendable money, the cash in hand to be able to spend money on things on our own community. And this drives the second part of my Workers' Declaration of Independence, which is an end to corporate welfare. Low wages are the reason why people shop at Walmart. It's the reason why people go to McDonald's. It is the reason why we have a General Electric corporate welfare mechanism that is taking money out of our federal coffers and is not even giving us jobs in return, which is supposed to be what we get in return. When you see them shutting down plants in Fort Edward while borrowing money from the Federal Reserve at 0%, workers are paying the interest on those loans. This is completely unjust. If we can end corporate welfare, if we can end the subsidies to these monolithic corporations that are not serving the public good, we can return to community-based or regional economies. That kind of microeconomy is very dependent on regional agriculture. Regional agriculture is what the Adirondack Park and this congressional district are all about. If we cannot subsidize our small farms, or at least allow them to grow as farms that are variegated, sustainable, organic, family-run, as opposed to corporate agribusiness farms, we are going to lose arable land in New York State, and we're going to lose the skill in the ability, the collective knowledge that it takes to raise our own food in the area where we live. It's an incredibly vital thing to our economy in the Adirondacks, and it's an incredibly vital thing when it comes to workers' rights as well. The third issue I would certainly like to bring to bear is that we are basically looking at a country that has no meaningful health care. All we have is health insurance. And we've just been told through the ACA that we're going to be forced to buy it. We're going to be forced to buy for-profit insurance. And in fact, we are forced to right now. We're only being penalized at a very small rate, which we should be thankful for. But I have to ask you this. If workers could not afford health insurance yesterday, did signing a bill in Washington somehow change that for any of us? Are we somehow now able to spend thousands of dollars a year feeding the health insurance bailout mechanism known as Obamacare? Now, my response is not the same as the Republican response, which in general is, your health care is your problem. I could agree with that if I didn't build your hospital for you. But workers and the middle class are actually paying 52 cents of every dollar spent on health care in this country right now. It's public money. And in every other country in the world, that would be enough money spent on a nonprofit system for us all to have free health care. Why can we not do that? Well, the answer is we can. There's HR 676. It's been before Congress for years. Apparently, they're having a lot of problems finding sponsors for it. Well, I would suggest that that bill, which is improved expanded Medicare for all, needs some Congress people going to Washington, D.C. who already support it. And that's me. If you want single-payer health care, elect me. I'll vote for it. I'll speak on behalf of it. I'll advocate for it. You get a better result, it's half the price, everybody gets covered. If really wealthy people want to go to Johns Hopkins and pay the extra money, or use medical tourism and get an eye laser surgery in Mexico, let them do it. No one's stopping them, it's a free country. But if you're going to take my 52 cents from me, I want something back in return. What I want is the health care that was supposed to be spent on. 676, Medicare for all. What I would like to say on this day is that those three issues alone, a $15 minimum wage for all workers at the federal level, an end to corporate welfare so we're no longer forced to carry major corporations on our backs, and single-payer health care for every human being living in this country. That's a workers' declaration of independence. And that's what we really should be talking about on July 4th. Thank you.